Hello everyone and welcome to our Shiur in Bet Yosef, where we learn the dinim of the Shulhan Aruch, starting with the Gemara, the Bet Yosef, the Rishonim, and the Psak of the Shulhan Aruch. Today we continue siman tzadi halchot tefillah, and we are now in seif Vav. Seif Vav is a halacha brought in Masechet Berachot daf hey amud bet. There's a braita. Tanya, Ama Abba Binyamin Omer, Shnayim shenichnesu להתפלל, וקדם אחד מהם להתפלל, ולא המתין את חברו ויצא, טורפין לו תפילתו בפניו. Meaning, Shnayim that went into a synagogue. It could be two, it could be many, Rabbeinu Yonah points out. And one of them finished praying and then left. And he didn't wait for his friend to finish. The Gemara says that his prayer is ripped up. The Gemara brings a pasuk from Sefer Yov, Torech nafsho be'apo, ha'mancha te'aziv aretz, v'ye'atek sur b'mekomo, v'ye'atak sur b'mekomo. Meaning that there's a concept, do not leave someone, otherwise your prayer will be ripped up in front of you. The Gemara continues and says, V'lo od, shegorem l'shchina shetistalek mi'Yisrael, shene'emar, v'ye'atak sur b'mekomo. And sur is borei olam. It says in the pasuk, sur teshi. So we learn that a person should never leave his friend praying in shul, as both his prayer and the shechina can be affected. The Gemara continues and says, V'him tilo. If he waits for him, he gets a tremendous sachar. What's the sachar? Amar Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Hanina, Zocher leberachot halalu. Brings a pasuk in Yeshaya that talks about tremendous beracha. And the pasuk reads, Lu ikshavta lemitzvotai, that for the fact that you listen to my mitzvot, v'hi ken nahar shalamecha, you'll have peace, v'tzidkatecha, kigalei hayam, you'll have righteousness, v'hi kahol zarecha, v'tzitza'emehecha, kim'otav lo yikaret, v'lo yishamed, that the children and the offspring of a person should live long lives and should be strong and should be living in front of Borei Olam. Tremendous beracha for this mitzvah. The Tur and the Bet Yosef discuss how and when this din applies. The first shita is Rabbi Hananel, who says that this din was only for the times of the Gemara, where the synagogues were in the fields and there were mazikin, which can be understood as either evil powers or people or bandits or animals that could hurt them. And therefore, it was very dangerous to be alone in the synagogue, and therefore, a person should wait for his friend. However, in the city, it's not a problem. And nowadays, it shouldn't be applicable. However, the Tur brings the Aharonim, which is the Shita of Rabbeinu Tam and the Rif, that both hold that this concept does apply today. And therefore, at night, when there are mazikim and there are dangers, person should wait, and therefore only in Arbit a person needs to wait for his friend, not in Shaharit and Mincha. The Tosafot bring the opinion of the Ri, and there's a slight argument between the Tur and the Bet Yosef how to bring the Ri. The Tur sounds like that the Ri was careful even in the daytime. Sounds like it's the Halacha. However, the Bet Yosef points out that the Mordechai and those Tosafot say that Ri was only Mahmir. And it's clear that from the letter of the law, it's not necessary in the day to wait for your friend. The Ri would be so stringent that if he finished his prayer after the entire tzibur and he was left alone, he wouldn't leave. He would wait and see if someone else would come to pray and learn while that person was praying, and only then walk out with them. The Tosafot ends off, "V'nachon af lanu lahachmir." We should also be careful and stringent like the Ri. However, the Bet Yosef brings that Rabbeinu Yonah says that even in our shuls, in the city, and it sounds like even all of the tefillot, Shaharit Mincha and Arbit, a person should wait for his friend. Why? Rabbeinu Yonah says that when a person is alone, they have some fear. They're not comfortable, and they get confused in their prayers, and they can't have clarity in their amidah. And therefore, we should wait for a person at all times. So to sum it up, we have four opinions. Rabbeinu Hananel, who says it doesn't apply in the city. Rabbeinu Tam and the Rif, who say it only applies at night. The Tosafot, who is Mahmir all the time, the Ri. And Rabbeinu Yonah says it all applies everywhere, even today. In a moment, we'll see how Maran is posek. In the Bet Yosef, there's no clear psak. So we'll use the Shulhan Aruch to understand the halacha. Before we get there, Rabbeinu Yonah points out two things. He says that this halacha does not apply when a person comes in late to shul. When a person comes in late, he clearly doesn't mind being the last one there, and therefore we don't have to wait for him. He adds another point, that this is only applicable when a person is in the middle of the Amidah. However, if the person praying is Ma'ari, he extends his prayers, with bakashot and other things, his fellow friend does not have to wait for him. It's only for a person who's in the Amidah. Possibly this could be connected to Rabbeinu Yonah's Shita, because Rabbeinu Yonah says we're worried that a person's prayer will become confused. That's really only the Amidah. In the bakashot, the Aharonim, we're not worried as much. Let's see from the Shulhan Aruch if we can understand how the Bet Yosef is machriya in this halacha. Seif Tedvav reads as follows: Im nish'ar adam yechidim mitpalel bebet knesset shebasadot or afilu bebet knesset sheba'ir im hi tfilat arvit shemipalelim balayla, adds the Rama, hayav havero lehamtim lo ad shesem tfilato kede shelo yitbabel betfilato. The Rama adds, v'yesh machmirim afilu bayom ubate knesset shelanu shehem ba'ir v'im ma'arif bebakashot bet Aharonim eno chayav lehamtim lo. So we see from Maran that he's not posek like Rabbeinu Hananel, because Maran says whether it's in the Sadot or even in the city, like the reef from Rabbeinu Tam. But he says only in Tfilat Arbit, you have to be careful. The Rama adds in Shir Palalim Balayla, would sound like if they prayed Arbit from Plag HaMincha on, from the understanding of the Rama and his notes here, it would seem that we don't have an issue. And he brings the explanation that it's an issue of Shelo Yitbabel B'Tfilato. However, he does not bring Rabbeinu Yonah, who holds that in all prayers a person has to wait for his turn. However, the Rama does bring that there are machmirim. The Rama points out that it's machmirim, like the Bet Yosef pointed out, that the reism is a chumrah, that even in the city you should wait. However, he does bring the Rabbeinu Yonah. Maran brings the Rabbeinu Yonah then that it's only for the Amidah and not for bakashot. We proceed to seif Tet-Zayin. Seif Tet-Zayin is a halacha mentioned in Masechet Pesachim as well as in Masechet Chulin, which says, L'tfilah arba'a milin, v'hani milin lefanav, aval aharav admil chozer tefelo, which literally means that for prayer, a person has to do something in the time and distance of arba milin, which is lefanav, on his way. However, going back, admil. So what are we talking about? There's machloket in the Rishonim, and the Tur and the Bet Yosef agree to the opinion of Rashi. Rashi explains that this halacha is talking about praying with a minyan, that if a person is on the way and he's continuing on his path, and he got to a certain stop, and he wants to stay there, he wants to sleep there for the night. However, he doesn't have a minyan. And in the next town, which is in Arba Milin, which is on his journey that he's going to continue at some point, maybe the next day, there is a minyan. He must proceed to the next stop point and pray with them. Ad Arba Milin. Arba Milin, the Aharonim are going to explain that it's basically 72 minutes. Therefore, he has to seek a minyan if there's a minyan 72 minutes away. However, to go back, he only has to go back a meal, which is 18 minutes. The Torah says that there are other opinions that discuss this regarding this halacha, regarding other things. However, the Torah is machriya that Rashi's perush is ikar, and that seems to be the opinion of the Bet Yosef. The Torah adds, Lachen tzarich lishtadel bechol kochol itpalel im hatzibur. We see from this halacha how important it is to pray with a minyan, because you have to change your travel plans in order to seek a minyan. Maran used this lashon of the Torah in Seif Tet, as we can recall, Yishtadel Adam Litpalel Bet Knesset Im Hatzibur. And now in Seif Tet-Zayin, Maran will say that it's talking about how far you have to travel. We're reading to Seif Tet-Zayin. Ha'olech b'derech ve'egia la'ir v'rotzeh la'alun ba, im lefanav ad arba'a milin makol shimpalim ba'asara, tzarich lelech sham el harav, tzarich la'hazor, ad mil kedei להתפלל ba'asara, 4 milin in front of him, and he'd have to go back 1 meal, which is generally translated by the Aharonim to mean, like we said, 72 minutes in front, and to go back 18 minutes of traveling. The Bet Yosef brings from the Agudah, one of the Rishonim, that we learned from here that if a person wakes up in the morning in a city where there is a minyan, he should not leave the city. Rather, he should wait for sure the 72 minutes required, even though he does want to get on his way. Assuming that he has enough time to travel to his destination before nightfall. Those times he didn't travel at night, and therefore traveling at night was a sakana, and therefore, as long as he can reach his destination before nightfall, he's obligated to stay and pray with the minyan where he is. Unless he's going to have to travel alone, as the Mishna Berura points out, if he has a caravan that's traveling, he does not have to wait. We'll read seif Zayin, which is the Agudah. Yesh Misha Omer, like we pointed out many times, Maran sometimes says Yesh Misha Omer, not to connote that there's a machloket, rather to connote that this halacha is not brought in all of the Rishonim, HaMeforsamim, like the Rif, Rosh, Rambam, Rashba, Ran. Rather, it's brought in other Rishonim, but it's still a halacha. Yesh Misha Omer, Shemikol Sheken, Shelo Yeshkim Adam, Lelech, Me'ir, Shmipalim, Ba'asara, Im Yachol Lavod, Mchos Chtzo, Bo'od HaYom Gadol, V'shelo Yeh Tzarich Lelechet Yechidi, Ahar Tefillah. Up till now, we've mentioned the importance of praying the Bet Knesset. However, here in Seif Yudchet, we will see that there's something even more important than praying the Bet Knesset. The Tur begins the Halacha and says that all of what we've said is for the Hamon Am, for the layman. However, if someone has a Midrash Kavuan in his house and he learns there, Mitzvah Le'ipalel bo, he should pray there. And the Tur says, Afilu en lo asaram. The Tur holds that even if you don't have a minyan, a person should pray in his Bemidrash in his house. He brings the Gemara of Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Asi, that even though there were 13 synagogues in Tveria where they lived, they would only pray where they learned. The Tur brings that Abaye originally used to learn in his Bet Midrash and then go to the synagogue, but he changed his opinion when he heard Rabbi Hayya bar Ami say in the name of Ula, Shemiyom shahara Bet HaMikdash en lo lakadosh baruch hu be'olamo ela arba amot shel halacha, that after the destruction of the Bet HaMikdash, Borei Olam seeks halacha. He seeks dalat amot shel halacha. V'amar Rav Hasda, May dichtib ohev Hashem sha'arit Tzion v'kol mishkenot Yaakov. The pasuk in Tehillim says that Hashem loves the gates of Zion. What are the gates of Tzion? V'amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, ohev ani et sha'arim ha'mitzuyanim ba'halacha. It's a play on words. Gates that are designated and adorned with the words of halacha, with the words of Torah. Mikol batei knesiot. It's not just meaning halacha like Shulhan Aruch, but it means the laws of Borei Olam. All halacha is interpreting and explaining the word of Borei Olam from Har Sinai. And therefore, Abaye would only pray where he learned. Like we mentioned, the Tur said that even if you don't have a minyan, you should pray where you learn. That's the opinion of Rabbanei Tzarfat, brought by Rabbeinu Yonah. Shafilu b'lo asara, hayu osin ken, mipnei sheyoter nachon leipalel yahidi, במקום ששם קביעות התורה יומם ולילה מלהתפלל בבית הכנסת עם הציבור. To pray in a place where there's a consistency of Torah has priority than praying in the Bet Knesset, even though the Ma'ala of Bet Knesset is tremendous. However, the Bet Yosef brings that the Rambam interprets this Gemara differently. The Rambam says, V'hu shitpalel sham tefilat hatzibur. Klomar ba'asara. The Rambam says that these rabbis had a minyan in their Bet Midrash, and that's why they prayed there. And the only heter to pray in the Bet Midrash, and when it is a mala, is when you have 10 people. So the Rabbeinu Yonah asks, what's the difference between praying in the Bet Midrash with 10 versus the Bet Knesset? And Rabbeinu Yonah answers that in the Bet Knesset there were multitudes. There's a mitzvah v'rov am hadrat melech, to praise Borei Olam with multitudes of Jews. That is a great level. However, the level of praying in the place where Torah was learned is even higher. And that's what the Rambam is teaching us. Rabbeinu Yonah does add that even the Rambam would agree that a person who never leaves his house and he always learns in his house, even he could pray without a minyan. He wants to say that the Rambam is talking about a person who would walk to learn in a different Bet Midrash, not in his home. And therefore, since he walks to learn, so he also should be obligated in a minyan. However, if a person were to learn in his home, he would be patur from minyan because Torah is his umanut, because he's on the level that he does not waste a moment and not being active in Torah learning. Even though the Tur brought the opinion of Rabbi Yonah and Rabbi Tzarfat that a Talmid Chacham should pray alone, he brings that the Rosh, his father, was asked this question. And the Rosh wrote in a tshuva something very eye-opening. He said that it's better for a Talmid Chacham to pray with the tzibur with 10 people. Ki zman tefillah lehod v'zman Torah lehod. That a person has to set separate times for Torah and tefillah. וגם אין תורתנו כל כך אמונתנו, בהרבה שעות ביום אנו מתפתלים, נבטל תורתנו בשעת תפילה, ונשלים אותה בשעות אחרות. He says we're not at that level that we don't waste a moment. We waste time for other things in life, and therefore we can't say that we don't waste any time at all, and therefore we should be patur from minyan, and therefore we should pray with the tzibur. And we should work as hard as we can to find time to learn and to be mashlim our learning at other times, but not at the expense of the tefillah. And he adds that if Talmidei Chachamim stop praying in the Beit Knesset, the people will learn from them, and the people will not come to the shul, and will have Betei Knesiot that are empty, and the tefillah b'tzibur will stop, because people aren't going to realize that the Talmid Chacham is learning, and that's why he's patur. They're just not going to come. They're not going to appreciate and give importance to this mitzvah. It seems clearly from the Tur that he's posek like the Rosh, because it says B'lashon umihu. However, let's see how Maran brings this halacha. Maran says in seif Yirchet, Bet hamidrash kavua kadosh yoter mibet ha-knesset, u'mitzvah litpalel bo yoter mibet ha-knesset, v'hu shitpalel ba'asara. Maran's lashon, like it is many times, is from the Rambam, that the Bet Midrash is at a higher level, has more kedusha than the Bet Knesset, and it's a mitzvah to pray in the Bet HaMidrash as long as you have a minyan. This seems to be not like the Tur's opinion with Rabbi Yonah, who obviously says you're patur, Talmid Chacham is patur. And it even seems not to be like the Rosh, because according to the Rosh, the Talmid Chacham should go to the Bet Knesset. The Ramah adds, V'yesh omrim da'afilu b'lo asara, adif li'itpalel b'Beit HaMidrash ha'kavua lo, v'davka mi she'torato u'manuto ve'eno mitpatel b'lav ha'achi. That's the opinion of Rabbi Yonah brought by the Ramah. However, the Ramah does bring Tshuvat Arosh, and he says, "Afilu achi lo yigil atzmo la'asat ken, shelo yimedu amei haaretz mimenu mipatelu mibet knesset." The Darkei Moshe added in the middle of the Bet Yosef's discussion that there's a Shotei Giborim who says that Talmidei Chachamim that are learning in the Bet Knesset on Yom Kippur when the tzibur is praying, and they divide themselves and don't participate with the tichinot and bakashot and the slichot, are not doing the proper thing. This halacha was mentioned earlier by the Ramah, and he brings it again here. He says, "Kol shekeh shelo yasuk b'Torah be'beit hakneset bizman shetzibur omrim slichot utchinot," which is in line with the concept of the Rosh, that people don't understand why Talmidei Chacham do things sometimes, and the Talmid Chacham has to be very careful, and therefore, just like he has to come to the shul according to the Rosh, he should, when he's in the shul, he shouldn't learn while the tzibur is praying. However, as we mentioned, these dinim are brought in the Ramah, and it seems that the Bet Yosef and Maran do not hold like them. Maran holds like the Rambam, that you should pray be'asara, even though it's a smaller crowd in the Bet Midrash. Thank you for joining. Be'ezrat Hashem, we will continue with seif Yirchet. Any questions, comments, thoughts, or ideas can be sent to alsetton@gmail.com.